Good afternoon. The search is ongoing for a man who went missing after his boat capsized near Cherry Beach yesterday afternoon.
Another man and a dog were rescued yesterday, but the search for the second man is continuing. CTV John Musselman has been following the search effort and joins us live with more. John.
Well, Nathan, I can tell you I'm at Cherry Beach here, and the search is happening just east of our location near the outer harbor. We know that the Marine unit is on the scene with divers. They're searching the water. Now, again, there was two men in an inflatable boat yesterday afternoon. They were also with a dog. For some reason, the boat flipped over. They were both tossed into the water, as well as the dog. We're told that one man in his 40s was rescued. The dog was also rescued. But they're searching for this man who disappeared under the water yesterday. And we're being told this is now at a recovery stage. So what they're probably likely dealing with in situations like this is they're probably assessing the currents, what may have happened here and where this victim may be. There are a number of people down on the waterfront who have been watching the police recovery effort. We had a chance to speak to a person who was here yesterday when this was all unfolding. Here's what he had to tell us.
It's sad. Yeah. My heart goes out to the family.
Yeah, and they're still looking for this other person.
Yes.
Is this a busy area? Like, how would you describe it yesterday when you were here?
It was pretty busy yesterday. The weather was nice, so a lot of people on the beach. A lot of people walking their dogs in the dog park.
How was the water? Was it choppy? Was it calm?
It was like today. It was clear and smooth, calm.
And keep in mind, it is a nice sunny day here, but the lake temperature is still quite cold. In situations like this, hypothermia is still a real possibility. Again, we're waiting for updates from Toronto Police, but at this point, it is recovery mode for this victim. Reporting live, I'm John Musselman. I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, John. There was a fire at an Etobicoke restaurant early this morning. Flames broke out near Albion Road in Islington just before 3 a.m. Smoke spread to a residential unit on the upper floor. One person managed to escape the building on their own. Now, the fire has since been put out and nobody was hurt. The cause of the fire remains under investigation.
Toronto's fire chief is calling for stronger safety measures following another lithium-ion battery fire. The fire broke out around 2:30 yesterday afternoon near Roncesvalles and the Queensway. Toronto Fire shared images on social media. At least 3 e-bikes were found inside a shed and their batteries were secured. No injuries were reported as a result of this fire. Fire Chief Jim Jessup says the growing number of fires and their severity is a major public safety concern.
4 teenagers have been injured following a crash in a rural area north of Whitby. The CTV news chopper was over the scene on Myrtle Road this morning. Police responded to the crash just after 5:30. They found a vehicle flipped over with the occupant suffering various injuries. Police say at least 2 people were ejected from the vehicle. 2 men aged 18 and 19 were taken to a Toronto area trauma center with serious injuries. A 16-year-old girl was airlifted to a Toronto area trauma center with critical injuries, and a 14-year-old boy was taken to a local hospital.
The OPP have charged a school bus driver north of Orangeville with stunt driving after the bus was clocked going 100 kilometers per hour in a 50-kilometer zone with children on board. Officers in Mulmer saw the bus speeding around 4 p.m. Tuesday. They pulled the vehicle over and spoke with the driver, a 56-year-old woman. In addition to the stunt driving charge, she's also charged with speeding 50 kilometers per hour over the posted limit and failing to surrender her license. A Scarborough mother accused of killing her daughter earlier this month made a brief court appearance this morning. 37-year-old Ting Yang is charged with first-degree murder in the death of her daughter on May 12th. The toddler was found by police and paramedics without vital signs inside a home in the area of Midland and Steeles Avenues. They say the children's father made the 911 call. Yang will be back in court June 11th.
Murder charges against an Ontario man accused of selling lethal substances online to people who later use them to take their own lives are expected to be withdrawn. Kenneth Law is expected to plead guilty to the lesser charge of aiding suicide when he appears in court tomorrow. He was originally scheduled to stand trial in Newmarket last month on 14 counts each of first-degree murder and aiding suicide. His lawyer gave notice of the plea deal several weeks ago.
There was relief for drivers at the pumps this morning as the price of gas dropped 10 cents overnight. The price for a liter of regular gas fell to just under $1.74 at most GTA stations. The last time the price was that low was April 24th. Dan McTagg with Canadians for Affordable Energy says the price of diesel also dropped roughly 7 cents.
And still to come, Prime Minister Mark Carney is in New York City today. We'll have more on his trip south of the border a little later in the newscast. But first, Mayor Olivia Chow was in Scarborough this morning to mark completion of the structure of a new purpose-built rental building near Kennedy Station.
We're showing up so you can afford to live here, so you can stay here and make this city great. Together, we're building an affordable, caring, and safe city. It is so worthy of celebrating.
26 Gilder Drive is 27 stories tall, funded in partnership by the city and Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation. 80 of the 341 rental units are designated as affordable. As she runs for re-election, the mayor pushed back against critics, saying no affordable housing projects are going up north of the 401 in Scarborough, adding she continues to push for more investment from higher levels of government on that front.
Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney is addressing New York City's economic club. Here he is now. Let's listen in live.
Relationships, as is its right. The world is becoming more divided and dangerous. And Canada recognized these developments earlier than most, and our response reflects the core lesson that we've taken from these tectonic shifts. Namely, that is that we have to take care of ourselves and we have to be true to ourselves. Taking care of ourselves means building our strength at home and diversifying our partnerships abroad. So in our first year in government, we cut taxes on incomes, on capital gains, on new business investments. We introduced something called the Productivity Super Deduction. What you need to know is it gives Canada the most competitive tax rate for new investment in the G7. It's half the G7 average and 4 percentage points below that of the United States. We're in the process of catalyzing $1 trillion of investment in Canada over the course of the next 5 years in energy, transportation, data, and defense. We've launched our most significant regulatory reforms in generations to fast-track hundreds of billions of dollars of nation-building infrastructure projects, and we're realizing our full potential as an energy superpower. By the end of this decade, Canada will export nearly 50 million tons of LNG annually. By the end of the next decade, we will double that capacity. We're advancing a potential pipeline that would carry at least 1 million barrels of low-emission Alberta oil per day to Asian markets, while creating an entirely new industry of large-scale carbon capture and storage. We're building, right now, the world's first operational small modular reactor in the G7, while expanding our world-leading uranium production. In the past year, we have signed 56 critical mineral agreements with more than 10 countries, unlocking more than $18 billion in capital, while reducing dependence on foreign chokeholds in that critical supply chain. We are doubling our electricity grid. That's more than 160 gigawatts of new power, building on the lowest cost power in the G7 and the second lowest emission power in the OECD. That is what an energy superpower looks like when it decides to really act as one. Now, in parallel, we're diversifying our partnerships abroad. We've signed more than 20 economic and security deals across 5 continents in the past 12 months. Our existing free trade accords already provide access to 1.5 billion consumers from the EU through to the CPTPP. We're now on track to double that addressable market this year with new deals with India, the ASEAN countries, Mercosur, Thailand, and the Philippines. We're the only non-European member of SAFE, which is the Europeans' Defense Procurement Initiative. Now, one of our core objectives of these partnerships, yes, it's access to markets, but it's also to increase our strategic autonomy. Because we all live in a world where integration has been weaponized. Think critical minerals. because a country that can't feed, fuel, or defend itself is not truly sovereign. Because, as well, strategic autonomy today extends to building partnerships and capabilities across AI, financial payments, space, critical minerals, as I said, and clean energy. And we are making progress because Canada has much of what the world needs and wants, from energy to key aspects of aerospace, cyber, AI, and quantum. Our pension funds are amongst, and some of them are here if you need money, our pension funds, although I'm not sure the Economic Club of New York needs money or has money to, but our pension funds are amongst the most sophisticated infrastructure investors in the world, and our banks amongst the most resilient. And we're also making progress because our reputation as a reliable, predictable partner has rarely been more valuable in a world where transactions are replacing relationships. We're blessed with many commodities in Canada, but we have earned the most valuable one, which is trust. Which brings me to the second element of that lesson, which is being true to ourselves. True to our values of taking care of each other and meeting our responsibilities to our allies. Canadians take care of each other with a relentless focus on affordability, by providing universal childcare, healthcare, education, by building, as we are now, affordable housing at scale. And we're now doing our share abroad. For the first time since the fall of the Berlin Wall, we are meeting our NATO targets. As well, we have already embedded in our fiscal framework, in other words, we provided in our budget, a path to 4% of spending of GDP in total defense by the end of this decade, en route to the 5% NATO schedule in 2035. We've launched in recent months our first defense industrial strategy that alone will catalyze $500 billion of investment in Canada in the next decade, building on our strengths in aerospace, shipbuilding, AI, cyber, and again, quantum. We are leading NATO's multinational brigade on the front lines, and they are the front lines now, in Latvia. We are one of the largest, not the largest, per capita contributor as part of the coalition of Willing for Ukraine, standing up for freedom, for democracy, territorial integrity, human rights against criminal Russian aggression. Let me say that the outcome of this war is not in doubt. The only question is the scale of the senseless human suffering that will be inflicted before Russia and its enablers accept the inevitable. We're stepping up to protect Arctic sovereignty through intensified cooperation with the Nordic countries, with Germany, the United Kingdom, and working within NATO to make Arctic security the priority it needs to be. To back that up, we've moved quickly in the past year to build new military operating hubs, to commission over-the-horizon radar. We're going to buy new submarines while adding to the world's largest fleet of icebreakers. We're also in the process of creating a new multilateral institution, the Defense, Security and Resilience Bank, to provide long-term, low-cost financing.
You're listening to Prime Minister Mark Carney at the Economic Club of New York in New York City. He's speaking to business leaders. He is pitching Canada as an investment destination, an energy superpower, outlining our new economic strategy. This, of course, comes at a time where there's a very shaky relationship between the Canada and the U.S. Kuzma up in the air. We've got the tariff situation. We'll leave it here as he touts his northern neighbors, but we'll certainly continue to follow this, and we'll have more later on CTV News.
To other news, thousands of OPSU members are rallying downtown this afternoon. This is a live look at the rally, which is being held to protest what the union calls the push for privatization in health care by the Ford government. The group is marching to Queen's Park to demonstrate outside the legislature.
The Ford government unveiled Ontario's first ever defense industrial strategy today as it looks to expand the sector's presence and investment in this province. Premier Doug Ford outlined the strategy at the annual CanSec Arms Expo in Ottawa. The event sees hundreds of military equipment companies gather, hoping to sell their wares. According to the government, the province's 10-year framework is dedicated to growing the defense industry in Ontario while positioning companies and workers here for long-term success. The Premier noted this comes at a time when Canada and its allies are responding to increasing global uncertainty with record defense spending.
We're home to over 300 defense firms, directly employing over 13,000 workers and offering products and services all over the globe. I always say we'll put our workers against anyone in the world. We'll put our technology and ingenuity against everyone in the world or anyone in the world. We have one of the biggest networks of world-class universities with 94,000 STEM graduates every single year, top-tier research institutions, and more high-skilled workers than anywhere in Canada.
The Premier also pointed to Ontario's capacity to generate electricity in the province's deposits of critical minerals. He says the strategy could add $400 million to provincial coffers every year by 2035, while making Ontario a key player in the defense industry.
Meanwhile, a new poll suggests support for Premier Doug Ford is recovering following the backlash to his government's purchase and resale of a private jet. The survey from Abacus Data suggests if a provincial election was held today, Ford's PC party would receive 41% support compared to 31% for the Liberals. This is a change from a liaison strategy poll released nearly a month ago, which showed the PC party trailing the Liberals by 2 points. According to the Abacus poll, 41% of respondents disapprove of the Ford government's performance, while 37% approve.
Ajax MPP Rob Stoyanik has announced his bid to become the next leader of the Ontario Liberal Party.
People are looking for something different, for hope, for competence, and for solutions, because we can do better than this.
He released this video on social media this morning as he announced his intention to seek the party's leadership. He joins former Liberal MP Navdeep Bains, Etobicoke Lakeshore MPP Lee Fairclough, and former political staff Dylan Mirando. Ontario Liberal Party members are set to elect a new leader November 21st.
The Pride flag has been raised outside of Scarborough Civic Centre. The mayor and other officials were on hand for the flag raising this morning. The Pride flag will also be raised outside City Hall Monday, marking the start of Pride Month in Toronto.
The Pride flag is more than a symbol. It represents creating a safer community where too as LGBTQ people can feel accepted for who they are, love who they want, and feel comfortable in their own skin. It stands for acceptance, freedom, and support.
The Pride flag was raised at the North York and Etobicoke Civic Centres earlier this week.
More news in a moment, but first, hey, live look outside this afternoon. Beautiful day for a flag raising, beautiful day for sports, all the things to be down by the water. We are on a stellar stretch, and Lindsay Morrison's been telling us about it all week. What are you seeing today?
Well, interestingly enough, Michelle, early this morning I saw a little bit of cloud. I saw a couple sprinkles of rain for the east and north ends of the GTA. It was short-lived. We're back to mainly sunny skies. A little more cloud cover today in places like Haliburton and Algonquin Park. And it is a fresher feel out there today. Perhaps you've noticed we've got some pretty gusty winds out of the north. Teen temperatures across the board at this hour. There's that sharp north wind, and those gusts could be around 50 kilometers per hour later this afternoon and might be even stronger into the day tomorrow. Here's your day at a glance. If we're lucky, we'll make it to an afternoon high of 22 degrees, but many communities will be a little bit cooler today than we've been the last couple of days. And while we have lowered slightly on the UV index, we are still at a 7 or high, so don't forget the sun protection as you are heading out. We'll talk all about your weekend weather forecast coming up, but for now, Michelle and Nathan, I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Well, as you saw earlier, Prime Minister Mark Carney is in New York at this hour, but he's also scheduled to meet with China's foreign minister this week. Wang Yi will also hold talks with his Canadian counterpart, Anita Anand, during a 3-day visit. The discussions will likely include the recently updated Canada-China strategic partnership, as well as trade, investment, and global security. It is the first trip to Canada by a Chinese foreign minister in a decade.
The United States is accusing Iran of violating a fragile ceasefire. Now, it follows Kuwait saying it came under attack after an American strike on its country. The Iranian military released a video it says shows anti-American stickers being put on missiles. The video also shows what Tehran says is some of its missiles being launched. Kuwait reported that it was targeted with a missile and drone attack today in another challenge to the shaky ceasefire in the Iran war. Tehran says it launched a strike in the region but did not specify what it was hit.
Elsewhere, the fragile ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah is also being tested again. Israel struck a southern suburb of Beirut today. An apartment building was hit, but it was not immediately clear who might have been targeted. This was the first attack close to the capital since May 6th. Overnight, at least 14 people were killed across the south of the country amid ongoing Israeli military escalation ahead of talks in Washington.
A warning about the potential risk of increased human trafficking during the FIFA World Cup. A federal finance intelligence agency is advising Canadian businesses to watch for signs of money dealings that may be linked to sexual exploitation or forced labor. FinTrack provided 316 disclosures of financial intelligence in 2024-25 to law enforcement agencies. The disclosures identified 538 subjects of interest and supported 26 investigations.
Canada, the U.S., and Mexico are aligning their public health travel measures in a bid to protect citizens and visitors during the World Cup. Details of the measures have not been provided, but they apply to people coming from African regions at the greatest risk from Ebola. Canada is already banning residents from the DRC, Uganda, the South Sudan from entering the country for 90 days. Canadian citizens, permanent residents, and other foreign nationals who have been in affected areas in recent weeks and do not have symptoms will have to quarantine for 21 days, starting on Saturday.
The Attorney Generals of New York and New Jersey have issued subpoenas to FIFA over its ticketing prices. It comes following reports that fans were misled about the location of seats they bought for World Cup games. They're also looking at whether public statements by FIFA and the way it released tickets may have caused prices to spike. The investigation looks specifically at ticketing for MetLife Stadium in New Jersey, where 8 matches and the final will be played.
In Saudi Arabia, Muslim pilgrims performed the ritual stoning of the devil today. The faithful threw pebbles at a large stone wall. It's a symbolic rejection of evil and commemorates the Prophet Ibrahim's defiance of Satan's temptations. Hajj is one of the 5 pillars of Islam and must be performed once in a lifetime by Muslims who are physically and financially able. The final days of Hajj coincide with Eid al-Adha, the festival marking the Prophet's willingness to sacrifice his son in obedience to God. Lindsay.
Well, some cooler temperatures welcomed by so many, especially perhaps some athletes who are hoping to get out for a run today, maybe take part in an evening sport or two. Here's a look at what you can expect later on today. So teen temperatures in many cases for the majority of the day. Lots of sunshine and a clear sky through the overnight hours tonight. This is your cottage country weather forecast in case you're headed north for the weekend. A slightly increased chance of a shower on both Friday and Sunday in these regions, but here in the GTA, it's looking pretty dry. We'll take a detailed look at your 7-day forecast after the break here on CTV News at noon.
An inclusive workplace doesn't start on your first day. It starts in the job posting, the job interview, the questions we ask, and in fact, the work itself. When employers build inclusion in mind from the very beginning, that's what creates an accessible and inclusive workplace. Accommodations stop being a reaction, and they start being part of how the workplace is supposed to be every single day for every single person. That's what inclusion and accessibility means in the workplace.
Hi, Michael.
So as head of HR at Ability Center, I've got a couple HR questions for you, if you don't mind. What is one small change in how we onboard here at Ability Center that you think has made the biggest difference?
Our communications. We give as much information as we can up front. So when someone comes to the building, they can already envision themselves here. They know all the accessibility features. They'll even know that they get the questions in advance. So they don't have to ask.
I remember when I interviewed, that was a big thing for me. I really appreciated it myself. What's something that an inclusive workplace such as Ability Center does for employees of all abilities, not just those with a disability?
Oh, we reframe accommodations. They're for everyone. We just see them as support plans instead, because everyone could use a bit more support.
One big change that Canadian employers could make that could have a huge difference in inclusive hiring.
Oh, we at HR think that everything we do is so confidential. It's not. Stop gatekeeping your process. Stop gatekeeping the questions. Share it with people. You want them to be the best selves, put their best selves forward, give them the information they need to do that.
I love it. Share more. Thank you. You know, inclusion at work, it isn't a perk or a policy, it's practice. Every employer in Canada has the opportunity to put this into action.
A new exhibition at the Bata Shoe Museum is allowing visitors to walk in the shoes of people who lived during the Roman Empire, roughly 2,000 years ago. CTV's Jessica Smith joins us live now from the museum with more. Jess.
Well, Michelle, you know I love shoes, and these ones have such a unique history to them, and some of them are almost 2,000 years old. When you think about the oldest pair of sneakers you have, definitely not that old. I'll bring in Elizabeth Semmelhack. We were talking about just how unique this exhibit is, because you take a shoe that was from 2,000 years ago, but it's got connections to today, and I love that idea.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's amazing, right? We're looking at shoes that are roughly 2,000 years old, but they're answering the same questions that you and I have of how to get through the day. And so you can see the humanity, right, in looking at the shoes and how they were living up in this very remote Roman fort close to Hadrian's Wall in England 2,000 years ago.
And I love the idea that we can kind of see how some of the shoes are made of different materials that we still use today, and how they've kind of evolved, even some looking like the original flip-flop, but has obviously changed quite a bit.
Yeah, so there's a lot of use of leather, of course, a lot of use of cowhide. One of the pieces that I find really interesting is a pair of upper-class women's slippers that featured a cork insole. Cork was not available at this part of England, and so it was only available in Spain, and so would have had to have been imported. So not only do you have functionality like the flip-flop style sandal or the army marching boots, but you also have evidence of class and status by looking at the materials.
And speaking of the materials, we have some historical accurate replications of the outfits, and that kind of relates to the shoes themselves. Break that down for me, because I do love the kind of connection between the status of the people, the shoe, and how that all works together.
Absolutely. And so, you know, most people think of, when they think of forts, they think of the soldier. And so we have a soldier's uniform here, and you can see the lace-up style of footwear that they wore. Next to him, you see a woman's outfit. And so it's very straightforward, relatively simple clothing, but her sandals are really quite spectacular. And we have, or they have at Vindolanda, found some very high-level women's footwear, which is very refined. And next to her would have been her daughter, who's wearing similar clothing to her, and her footwear is yet again a different style. So there were many ways of solving your shoe problems in Vindolanda, and you get to see them for the first time in North America here at the Bata Shoe Museum.
Always making history and showing history. Elizabeth, thank you so much. It is here until September of 2027, so you have lots of time to come and see it. I'll send things right now back inside to the studio.
Thank you, Jess. Appreciate it. Those shoes don't look too comfy.
They look like they're just sort of holding on, but I guess we're close to flip-flop weather.
Yeah, you might consider a slipper or a flat, or yes, maybe even flip-flops if that's your jam on a day like this, although it is a little
fresh,
a little cooler today compared to the last couple of days, so you might get some cold toes if that's your shoe of choice today. But heading into the next couple of days, no shortage of sunshine, so at least we have that. Our dry pattern looks to continue, and heading into the weekend, we've got a couple of nice days to look forward to as well. Weather is brought to you by the Presler Law Firm. Injury lawyers, you don't pay unless they win. This is what our city looked like this morning. A bit more in the way of cloud cover early on. And as mentioned, a couple of sprinkles of rain in places, but nothing that lasted very long. And as far as I'm concerned, this is still considered to be a dry stretch of weather. No measurable rain, no considerable rain anywhere, and not much of any over the next 7 days either. So let's talk about what we can expect weather-wise, and that's another mainly sunny day today. All is quiet on the satellite and radar. We'll widen things out to show you. We basically have this dome of high pressure keeping low pressure systems away from us. Yes, we will see a little bit of an increase in cloud at times. We're also going to get some cooler air from the north filtering into southern Ontario. Areas of cottage country, the Nickel Belt, and along the border with Quebec, more likely to see some rain as we make our way through the next couple of days. And that includes the city of Ottawa. So keep an eye on the forecast radar. But again, it's dry for us, or looks to be. There's a bit of an increase in cloud. Saturday, though, a beautiful blue sky. That could end up being our coolest day of the next 7. So just a heads up on that. And then Sunday, mainly sunny skies to a mix of sun and cloud. It's going to be a very nice weekend. You can reschedule all those events that you maybe postponed last weekend with all the rain. 18 degrees is where we stand right now in the city of Toronto. Once again, it is warm across the Canadian prairies, even in through portions of northwestern Ontario. Look at that, 21 degrees this hour in Red Lake. Here locally, we are forecasting an afternoon high near seasonal, so 22 degrees is now the average temperature this time of year. Might struggle to get there in some communities today thanks to, again, a strong northerly wind. You feel it if you step outside. By overnight tonight, it's a bit more of a northwest wind, and that will persist into the day tomorrow. In fact, gusts tomorrow could be close to 60 kilometers per hour. But interestingly enough, we're looking at a slight bump in temperature for the daytime hours tomorrow in most areas around the GTA. We look to be back into, at the very least, the low 20s, perhaps even into the mid-20s in places. So Saturday, there's our expected high of 19 degrees. Should be a little bit warmer into the day on Sunday. And then your 7-day forecast. Look at this. I'm starting to feel like I'm forecasting weather for Los Angeles. A real lack of rainfall expected over the next 7 days here. Slight chance as we make our way into the day on Monday. About a 30% chance. That's also the first day of June. And look at these seasonal temperatures as we make our way through the middle part of next week. That's the weather for now. Nathan, sending it over to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. The Blue Jays begin a 7-game road trip in Baltimore tonight.
Fly ball to right field. Hit well. It's gone.
Kazuma Okamoto's 11th home run of the season lifted the Jays to a 2-1 win over the Miami Marlins in their series finale yesterday. Patrick Corbin will get the start for the Jays tonight, while the Orioles will send former Jay Chris Bassett to the mound. First pitch is set for just after 6:30 in Baltimore.
The Carolina Hurricanes are now a win away from advancing to the Stanley Cup Finals.
Spare and away goes Blake. 2-on-1 with Stankoven. Jackson Blake. Stankoven scores, and it's 3-0.
The team scored 3 goals in less than 3 minutes in the first period in Montreal last night. They added an empty netter to secure a 4-0 win. Carolina leads the series 3-1 and can advance to play the Vegas Golden Knights in the Stanley Cup Final with a home win tomorrow night.
Still to come, a new report is outlining the significant health care barriers facing rural communities. We'll have those details when we come back.
Toronto takes brunch very seriously, and we're diving fork first into a must-visit spot that's worth lining up for. In the heart of the Junction, Dirty Food Eatery brings bold, funky brunch energy. Come with me. Let's discover what's on the menu. Eggs Jenny on a buttermilk biscuit with collard greens and their crispy house potatoes, they're next level. And don't skip the sips. The wide array of signature cocktails makes this a brunch party, not just a meal. All right, I'm here with Leslie from Dirty Food Eatery, and wow. We're exploring the city for some incredible spots, and this, I think we've definitely stumbled onto one. Tell me a little bit about the vibe of Dirty Food Eatery and what was kind of the inspiration for opening it up back in 2016.
Yeah, so we've been here almost 10 years now. It's just sort of like a casual brunch spot with a focus on comfort food.
It's such a cool neighborhood and a great concept, and I know there's there's family in here. This is named after your sister Jenny?
Yeah, that's named after my sister Jenny. It's sort of a play on a traditional Eggs Benedict. Instead of the English muffin, it's done on a buttermilk biscuit. They're baked fresh in house every morning. And then we have the female bacon on there, some braised collard greens, and poached eggs and hollandaise made with real butter and eggs. And then we top it with a little bit of tarragon.
All right, here we go. I gotta tell you, Leslie, this is absolutely delicious. Dirty Food Eatery has definitely perfected lazy mid-morning meals. I mean, come hungry, leave obsessed. Let's do brunch. For more information, head to cp24.com.
A new report finds there are gaps in access to mental health and substance use health care in rural and remote areas. The Canadian Mental Health Association says rural residents face disproportionately high barriers to care. The report also found Indigenous peoples, women, and low-income residents experience worse mental health outcomes and higher rates of mood and anxiety disorders. Rates of drinking, smoking, and substance abuse disorders are also higher in rural and remote communities. British Columbia's top doctor wants to raise the price of raising a glass by tying costs of the amount of alcohol in a drink.
It's all part of an effort to make a clearer connection for consumers about the link between alcohol and cancer. CTV's Andrew Johnson has the details.
Victoria's Fizz non-alcoholic bottle shop is a business built around making the move away from booze.
There is more and more and more demand for alternatives to alcohol.
That shift, driven by young people, is mentioned in a new report from BC's top doctor. But Bonnie Henry says British Columbians are still drinking too much and more than the Canadian average.
Drinking less alcohol is better for our overall health, and that's the central message of this report.
The report makes several recommendations, including a new awareness campaign to make sure more people know alcohol causes cancer and warning labels similar to cigarettes. The report found the price of booze, adjusted for inflation, has gone down in BC over the past 2 decades, and that when the price goes up, people drink less.
The current model in BC bases minimum prices by volume, so a can of beer that's 7% alcohol isn't required to be any more expensive than a 4% beer. Stronger booze is a better value, but maybe not for long.
The report proposes changing the model to make stronger drinks more expensive, and a recommendation the province come up with its new strategy without what it calls industry influence, which got the attention of Wine Growers BC.
We think we have some really valuable perspective to share, and I think the best policies are born from collaboration. So to say industry shouldn't be at the table is just the wrong approach.
It's now up to the province to act on the recommendations.
Pour that in there.
As Canadians make their own choice whether to add booze to their next cocktail. Andrew Johnson, CTV News, Vancouver.
Here in Toronto, a live look right now from our CTV News chopper. This is the OPSU rally we touched on earlier. Protesters protesting privatization in healthcare. They are making their way north to Queen's Park, and definitely looks like a large crowd. And certainly when you have people in the streets, oh, there's the chopper there showing around the corner there. Looks like hundreds of people taking part in this OPSU rally. It does mean a disruption. If you are in the downtown core on this Thursday, take note. It's going to slow things down. Cars not able to get through there. They're making their way to Queen's Park. We are making our way to break, but we'll have more when we return.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
A new chapter is set to begin at Chum 104.5 FM. The Nat and Josie morning show will be launching July 6th. Nat Hunter and Josie Dye will host the show every weekday from 5:30 to 9 a.m. This comes after Marilyn Dennis announced in February she was stepping away from the mic this summer after 40 years of hosting the morning show. Chum 104.5 and CTV are both owned by Bell Media.
There's some long-awaited news to share with fans of heated rivalry. We now know when a highly coveted piece of clothing that appears in the show will go on sale.
All right, so tonight we can do the men's short form figure skating? Or?
My buddy Joe's in that program. Train together.
for you guys.
That's Hudson Williams as Shane Hollander in the romance series produced by Crave, CTV's Bell Media partner. As fans celebrated the show, many wanted to get their hands on the Team Canada fleece he's wearing. Retailer Province of Canada now says pre-sales will start online next week. 10% of proceeds will go to You Can Play, an organization aimed at addressing homophobia and other forms of discrimination in hockey.
A Pulitzer Prize-winning play is now on stage at Crow's Theatre.
CTV's Andrea Case recently sat down with the lead and the director behind Primary Trust.
Welcome to Wally's. My name is Paul. Today is Coconut Tuesday. We have 2-for-1 Mai Tais and $3 reggae shrimp.
I'll have a Mai Tai. The play Primary Trust takes place in a not-so-distant past, a time when there were no smartphones. Without giving too much away, Kenneth is a bookstore worker who loses his long-time job and embarks on a journey of self-discovery. Kenneth is played by DeRay McFarlane.
One more, por favor, and an order of those fancy shrimp.
My first experience of being on stage was like in, I think, grade 2, and it was the first time that I remember really feeling in my body, and I was very like a shy and anxious kid, and so that kind of like went away, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And so I think I've been kind of chasing that feeling since.
The role was Frosty the Snowman. The play is directed by Dora Award winner Sharissa Richards.
I've been a director now for 10 years. I was an actor for 20 years before that. And
but you're so young.
Sure.
Primary Trust debuted in Canada at London's Grand Theatre in January.
There's something you should know about Bert, about me and Bert. So I relate to Kenneth in those ways, and I see some of myself in Kenneth, and I think it's his journey that he goes on in the play is really heartwarming, and it deals with hard things, but it feels like a very heartwarming play, and I think a hopeful play by the end.
It gets to the heart of what it is to connect to community, and especially through someone who's dealing with the trauma of grief, and how they don't have the skills to be a part of community and society, and then are forced to learn, and how the community rallies around him to help him find that connection.
The Pulitzer Award-winning play Primary Trust is on stage now at Crow's Theatre. It runs until June 21st. Andrea Case, CTV News.
Coming up, Canadian Olympians met with kids in Ottawa this week. We'll have more on the effort to inspire the next generation of athletes when we come back. We return to one of our top stories, the OPSU rally against healthcare privatization in Ontario. This is a live look from Queen's Park, where marchers have gathered to express their opposition to the Ford government's healthcare strategy. Well, Canada's Olympic and Paralympic athletes were in Ottawa yesterday to meet with the Prime Minister and Governor General.
They also met with students in an effort to inspire the next generation of Canadian athletes. CTV's Annie Bergeron-Oliver reports.
The Games may be long over, but the Olympic and Paralympic celebrations continue. The audience, dozens of Ottawa school kids.
It's really fun. I've been very excited this whole time. I got to wear a gold medal. It's been really, really fun.
Hold on tight. A fun and motivating moment with freestyle skier Megan Oldham and her gold medal. That 10-year-old Ignacio Corpeno will never forget.
Any sport, I'm now excited to do any sport whatsoever. I don't think it really matters as long as I have fun.
Do you know how fun it is? The meet and greet outside Rideau Hall.
Can I use the pen for a second?
Special for the students and for athletes like Paralympic gold and bronze medalist Tyler Turner.
Maybe we don't all get to stand at the top of a podium at the Olympics or Paralympics. However, that pursuit of a goal like that, it comes with community, it comes with pride, it comes with, growth, and that's what I think we can all get from sport.
From Rideau Hall to Parliament, the country's best athletes receiving a thank you on behalf of all Canadians.
Your success, your drive, your example, your sports, your sense of sporting values, that united this country.
A country athletes like figure skaters Paul Poirier and Piper Gillies are proud to represent.
Sport brings people together, and to be here and be celebrated feels great. But again, we're inspiring the next people to be like, hey, maybe that can be us one day. So I think these are really important moments, and we're just really embracing it all.
Canada brought home 36 medals in Milan, and Ottawa is hoping to grow that success with a $775 million investment in high-performance sport unveiled in the Spring Economic Update. Annie Bergeron-Oliver, CTV News, Ottawa.
All right, this is the time for sports. Good weather for it, and I'm thinking FIFA just a couple of weeks away.
The countdown is, wow, it is on. We're going to be talking soccer a lot more, and hopefully this sunshine just sweeps right over into the big game.
I'm going to be a little disappointed if the weather is not quite this nice in about 2 weeks' time when we're officially welcoming the world to Toronto for the World Cup. But let's focus on what we know right now, and that's that it's another nice day today. It's going to be a pleasant overnight tonight, dropping to a low of about 11 degrees, so seasonal. A clear sky, no concerns weather-wise. Tomorrow, cranking up the heat a little bit once again, back into the mid-20s in many areas. Another mainly sunny day. Look at those wind gusts, though, close to 50 kilometers per hour. Your weekend forecast looks spectacular. A little cool, but many like that. This is comfortable, more comfortable perhaps than what we were feeling the other day when the temperature was up near 30 degrees. So enjoy the sunshine. It continues into next week in case you haven't had your fill recently. And we are expecting seasonal highs right through the first 3 days of June also. Nathan and Michelle.
All right, looks pretty good. Thank you, Lindsay. And that is it for CTV News at noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and all of us here, have a pleasant afternoon. I'm Michelle Dubé.
And I'm Nathan Downer. Be sure to join us later for CTV News at 5 and 6. Have a great day.